Over the course of Next Fest, we had a chance to play a lot of game demos. And in lieu of having that footage saved for who knows how many more months of backlog I saw from last year's Next Fest, it was suggested to do a top 10 list of my favorite game demos. So, hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're wondering, no, they are not in any particular order, and there'll be links to their store pages in the description down below. But enjoy my favorite games of Next Fest of 2021. For my first game, we have Glyph. This is a 3D realistic physics-minded platformer. And what this game has going for it is that it feels really nice to control, and it has kind of this like Marble Madness obstacle course kind of feel to it. So the story is that the world has become devastated, with much of the land now just completely inhospitable, and you play as this ball scarab device that's trying to save the world. And doing that's going to require collecting lots and lots of MacGuffins. So the big thing about Glyph is that your sphere here recharges its jump whenever it hits any surface. So this will allow you to kind of wall jump up areas, as well as unlocking new abilities going forward, such as being able to glide, double jump, and more. Now, the big thing about this game is that from what we played of the demo, it doesn't appear to be non-linear, as in you have free reign to explore each area. Because most of the area is pretty much going to be death if you touch it, it does mean that there really is going to be like one path or one solid route through it. But I did enjoy this game just in terms of what they want you to do, and I really like the kind of not exactly a simple aesthetic, but very clean one as you explore each environment. And I don't know if the game is going to get, super difficult in the finished version, but the variety of the level design and challenges is really nice. So definitely looking forward to checking this one out when the time comes. For our next game, this is the Legend of Tianding. This is an action-adventure game that's based off, I believe, the Taiwanese take on Robin Hood. And what this game has going for is that it's probably one of the most satisfying action games I played from Next Fest. Our main character here can run, double jump, and get different moves as the game goes on. And what I really like about this is that it feels very fluid to play. You see, you can not only dodge cancel, but you can also special cancel as well, allowing you to chain your various moves together to create very crazy combos. And as you fight enemies, when their health drops low enough, you're able to steal their weapon, which then gives you a few moments to be able to do more damage with it. And the game features a lot of collectibles that not only have lore to them, but give you small bonuses like 2% more damage or use an axe, 2 more times. And while they're not huge deals, they give you a reason to explore, and they kind of give you just enough to make it worth your while without making it required to have any chance at winning. And from what I play of this game, it has style, and it just, again, feels really good in my hands to play. And I like the comic book styling that occurs during cutscenes or specific moments in it. If I had any concerns, is I'm just wondering what else they're going to add to this game in terms of new movements, new challenges, and things along those lines, as it feels very much like one of those action games that I kind of gotten like the bulk of my major moves in this opening act. But if you are a fan of action adventure games, then definitely check this one out, and I think the demo is still up now. For our next game, we have Unsighted. This is a high-speed action kind of Metroidvania style game, very similar in terms of kind of the basic gameplay loop of Hyper Light Drifter. So high-speed combat, do or die, try to get those hits and parries in, and try not to get killed by whoever is coming after you. The story, of course, it is the post-apocalypse. We are an amnesiac android, and we're trying to make sense as to what has happened. Besides the high-speed combat, the other element of Unsighted is that you can equip your character with various chips that you find in the world. These chips will go on to kind of dictate your overall stats and what you're able to do. And you spend the in-game currency to unlock more slots, ergo get more options. Now, from the demo, there was crafting, or there were materials which we could find and pick up either from trash cans or off of enemies. I don't know if the finished game is going to have like a crafting element or something along those lines, as it was not in this demo. But this is looking like it's going to be another challenging action-adventure game. And I would say one thing to keep in mind regarding Unsighted is that this is on the challenging side. The footage that you're seeing is, I think, on the normal or hard difficulty. I forget if this is one of those games that had the hard mode unlocked for the demo or not. But there is an easy mode that affects, I think, overall enemy aggression as well as their stats. But again, this is a game that has a lot of things happening at one time. As you're moving, dashing, trying to get parries, reloading your gun, it has an active reload system. And it can be a lot if you aren't accustomed to this kind of action gameplay. And for me, I was liking this one. But like I said, if you didn't like Hyper Light Drifter, if you felt that was too chaotic, I think Unsighted may be a little bit more beyond that. But if you are looking for another high-speed action game to play with some really great art and aesthetics to it, then definitely check this one out. Up now, we turn to Toem. Hopefully I pronounced that right. This is like a complete opposite from Unsighted. A photography puzzle adventure game. We play as this character here who is going on an adventure. And to do so, we are going to be bus packing across the land to get to a major mountain. And standing in our way is based on the fact that we have no money. So in order to pay for our trips, we need to complete challenges that earn us stamps, which in turn we turn into free bus tickets from one area to another. So all the challenges in this game are photography based. You'll have to take a picture of a specific character, take a specific situation, etc., etc. And you always will have more challenges than what you need in order to kind of move on. And it's kind of set up very much like a Pokemon Snap adventure kind of experience. This is by no means going to be the hardest game on this list or the hardest game released anytime soon, but it's got a very charming aesthetic, and it's one of those games that just feels very nice to play. And if you want additional challenges, the game will also track all the characters you can take photos of, all the animals, and I'm sure there's even more in the finished game. So again, something like Toem, if you aren't interested in this kind of gameplay loop, it's not going to change your mind by any stretch of the imagination. But if you're looking for a great game to kind of relax and zone out to, then definitely give this one a check. We now go from nice and happy to post-apocalyptic death with Cards of the Dead. Now this is not a deck builder roguelike. This is more or less a digital card game. The story, of course, is that it is the zombie apocalypse, and we are going to need to survive one card and one turn at a time. The rules are, every time you reveal a card, you are going to lose Antidote. That's the blue vial on the bottom left. If it hits 0, you'll start to take health damage. If your health hits 0, your run is over. The challenge of the game is managing all your resources, including food, healing, as well as recovery antidote options. Now, weapons all have durability to them, so you can't just use your best weapons on the weakest zombies. And the challenge of the game is figuring out how long to spend in each area without basically running out of your resources that you need, or just taking too much damage from the various zombies. And what I like about this game is that it's not exactly on the deck building route. It's a very streamlined, very quick game to play. And a single run will probably take, I don't know, like 15 to 20 minutes, give or take. So it has that going forward compared to some of the lengthier games we've played, like Slay the Spire, Monster Train, and so on. My main concern with this one is if there is enough variance to make it worth it to keep playing more runs of it. Because it seemed like, I think each character, there's 3 according to the main menu, that determines what cards you get access to. So it seems very much like once you've been in the game, there may not be much else to go for with it. But I enjoy this one, and if you're looking for something again on the very snappier side, while still having some interesting choices to it, then give this one a check. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have the remaining 5 games to look at for this list. But as always, if you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, then check out my latest offering of books. For entry-level students, we have 20 essential games to study, and then the Game Design Deep Dive series that takes an extensive look at different genres, with horror coming by the end of 2021. We now turn to a game that I'm really excited about, and this is Goblin Stone. This is kind of like an RPG campaign, kind of similar to like a Darkest Dungeon or XCOM style progression. The story is that the goblins of the world have been hunted to almost near extinction, and it's up to us to lead the remaining groups to try and rebuild their race while dealing with all nasty human adventurers, flora and fauna, and all that other annoying fantasy things trying to get us. So the game itself definitely combines various genres in terms of its gameplay loop. When you're out in the world adventuring on missions, you'll run to enemies and you'll get into combat like this. Combat is turn-based, with the order, as you see on the timelines in the top of the screen, dictating who goes and when. Each character can belong or can become a different class. Classes affect what gear they can use. Characters or your goblins cannot level up, and instead all major progression is built on the gear. So getting a very powerful weapon like that, the giant like ham that my front warrior is using, is a huge boost to their stats. If a character dies during combat, they are dead for good, and you're going to have to go and get another character back at your home base. So the home base element feels right out of an XCOM style game. The goblins that you get are procedural, and they come with various stats, and those stats will dictate what classes they are best suited for. Now, the demo I think gives you mostly everything to start with, but I'm assuming in the main game you're going to have to unlock the various rooms and upgrades as you go forward. One major complaint is that the UI for this is very cumbersome. It's annoying to try and find that one goblin you want to level up, figure out who has what gear, swap gear, that kind of thing. And I hope that this does get a pass in the main game. But the gameplay loop of Goblin Stone is definitely intriguing. Going out on missions, getting more gear and resources to power up your goblins so you can then go out and do more missions and rinse and repeat. With that said, there is one potential pitfall with this game that we did not see during this demo. Because when your goblins run out of health, they are dead for good, we did not see what happens to gear if you wipe. As I said, because gear is your primary form of progression in this game, if you have a full party wipe, do you lose that gear? Because if you do, that can be a huge blow to progress, and just to the general morale of wanting to keep playing it. And I would also want to see more depth when it comes to like party compositions and how to really make use of their various skills. It seems very much like there's going to be like one or two de facto strategies for this game. Because certain skills will proc off of each other, I don't know if there's going to be more to it than that. But I was definitely enjoying this one, and I really do want to see what the finished game has in store. For our next game, we turn to what could very well be, I think, the surprise hit for me of the festival, and that is UnMetal. This is, of course, from the developer of Urbek, the satirical action RPG. And this time we're turning our attention to the, I guess, action stealth genre, based off a certain game with a gear to it I'm sure no one here has ever heard of. But you play as mysterious soldier Jesse Fox, who has been arrested for a crime he didn't commit, and after breaking out a military base, may discover a grand conspiracy that involves, the end of the world or the Illuminati or something along those lines. Or it could just be a complete made-up story, we don't know. So, the gameplay here, as you can tell, is just right out of Metal Gear. You're going to run around, avoid enemy detection, and punch guys and knock them out. What the game has going for it is definitely the humor and just the absurdity of this. As when Jesse is telling his story, you can decide certain areas of what's going to happen. And of course, the unreliable narrator certainly kicks in a lot during this game. And the game really reminds me of Call Perez Gunslinger in that aspect of it. Now, the dialogue does cut up a lot of the gameplay in it, but again, this is one of those games where the humor is definitely there to kind of elevate the gameplay. And if you're not in for the writing, then I don't know if the gameplay by itself will be enough here to kind of get you interested in it. But this is definitely one of those games that I did not really expect, or didn't really know what to expect when we started playing this one. But it was certainly a lot of fun, and I really want to see just how crazy things get in this game. For our next one, we turn to Urbek City Builder. This is a game that is very much designed in the classical SimCity place down tiles, things pop up style of design. And while the game is still very early, this is an alpha or pre-alpha build where there's not even any music, I really like the underlying systems for how this game behaves. So, once again, you are going to be using a road that defines where you can place things. But a lot of objects can be placed outside of the road, and as long as it's within a certain vicinity, it will work. Your goal, of course, is to build your population while balancing food, work, lumber, and power. And of course, as you keep adding in more people, buildings and potential options unlock themselves. Eventually you'll be able to get industries, get more advanced power options, and so on and so forth. Now, what the game has going for it in a kind of a unique aspect is that your buildings evolve based off what you build around them. If you want fancier villas, as you see right here, then you need to space them out and place beauty-producing items near them. If you want your homes to turn to suburban homes, you need to place a lot of them nearby and make sure they have access to food and education. And as you keep playing, of course, the number of plates you'll need to balance keeps going up and up and up. As new structures and new things will require more resources, you'll need to produce them, which will then let you repeat the whole song and dance all over again. Now, as I said, this is still very early, and it seems to be more about the sandbox, do what you want style of the classic SimCities. And if you're hoping for, a structure or goals to achieve, I don't know if this game has that, or if it will. But I really enjoy this one as a fan of the classical city builders, and there is certainly potential here for Urbek. For our 9th game, we have one that I'm very excited about, and that is Kainga, Seeds of Civilization. Hopefully I didn't butcher that name too much. This demo is based off a Kickstarter build, which the Kickstarter I believe has succeeded by the time you're watching this. And the hook of this game is roguelike city building. And that in of itself is a very fascinating concept. How it works is that you load up a run which gives you a procedurally generated area. Your tech tree, that instead of it being fixed in terms of what you get, every time you go to a node to unlock it, you have a choice between 3 relevant techs. And the research that you can get, that expands as you play more of the game and you lock more persistent elements. So this is a fascinating idea in terms of taking the variance and adaptability of a roguelike, but mixing it with the planning and construction of a city builder. And as you play, each area and each run will have a specific goal for you to achieve. And it's up to you to make use of the resources and your available tech in order to achieve that. And you'll have to levy the resources that are available in the land with the ones you can unlock on your tech tree. Now, with that said, I do have some concerns about this. The onboarding is not the best, and the game could do a better job of explaining what certain tech and certain options are used for. On my first run of this, apparently my city caught fire and I had no idea how to put it out, and everyone burned to death. You'll get frequent attacks, and the UI for managing military is not the best. My war snail, as you see right there, has to be commanded individually, and I would have liked a way to set like a general command in order to just have it patrolling and do things along those lines. And it does seem that depending upon how hostile the land is and what you have access to, you may not get the right tech to defend against it. Like for this run, I don't think I got anything that gave me more weapons, and then suddenly I was being attacked by raiders with guns. And unfortunately, enough guns will take out my acid-spewing snail. But with that said, there is a lot of potential here, and something that we don't normally see from the city building genre. And I am definitely interested to see what this game has in store for everyone when it's released, and hopefully after, they relax from their Kickstarter. And with that, we turn to our final game for this list. This is Farlanders, another game that wrapped up a successful Kickstarter with the demo available during Next Fest. And this is yet another slice of different city building design. This is kind of puzzle turn-based city building, if that makes any sense. So our goal is to terraform Mars. The prologue kind of starts on Earth and kind of walks you through the major elements of the game. How it works is each turn you are limited based on whatever resource you have available, and your primary resources along the top of the screen are food, water, crystals/minerals, power, and your available workforce in the top right. As you build stuff, resources will be earned or lost accordingly. And in order to keep construction, you need to bring in people. Now, your ace in the hole is your power to terraform the land. After X amount of turns, you'll gain these kinds of terraforming options you see on the right-hand side of the screen. By completing their conditions, you'll be able to add or remove something. So for instance, if you set up a pool of ice water on a kind of basin right there, you'll automatically get a supply of water that can then supply crops. If you dig the land, you can remove wasteland tiles that can't be produced, or if the land has already been kind of clean, you can make that land fertile, which will allow you to construct homes, farms, and other things around it. Now, with the maps being procedurally generated, it means that you're going to have to really adapt to what the cards you get, as well as what the lay of the land is going to give you. Now, from the campaign or from the prologue, the objectives were all basically colony-based. Get X amount of people by X turn. I don't know if there'll be more interesting goals in the finished game. But to facilitate all this, you need to construct various connectors to power and water. And the electrical lines and water lines are all handled underground, while tunnels or construction tubes are set up to connect the various people and buildings to each other. So this is one of those games that it's a battle for space. As once happiness becomes a factor, you can't construct homes near your factories because the factories pollute and people don't like it. But you also need the tiles that you can place homes on, or you can't fit more workers and then you can't build more stuff. And it's definitely that case of, again, that push and pull of how far can I expand without, going into the red, and what do I need to do immediately? Because the colonists only come at specific turns, and if you don't meet the conditions before time runs out, you lose the map. And further complicating matters is that there are synergy bonuses for placing the same structure next to each other. Putting multiple windmills or multiple solar panels together will often give you a bonus. And this becomes again a factor considering how premium space is in this game. Now, in terms of my concerns, I didn't really see too much of a growing core gameplay loop. It felt like what I was doing on the first map is going to be very similar to what's on the next map. And again, part of that was your limited tool set. So I'm curious what they're going to add in to kind of mix up what you have in terms of resources. One of the kind of like moderate elements you get are storage capacity increases, which will let you store more resources, obviously. And this can be used to either save up for something important or to give yourself kind of a safety net if you build something that's going to start consuming more than you can put out. But I did enjoy this one, and I'm curious to see where they're going to take it with the finished version. And that is going to do it. That was 10 of my favorite demos. There was a lot more that I played that I enjoyed, but I didn't want this to turn into a top 20 or top 25 list. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to check out those games, there'll be links to their descriptions down below. If you're working on any game and would like me to take a look at it, please get in touch. As always, check out our Discord and Patreon link down below. And if you'd like to support us on Patreon, we're trying to get the donation goals for more content here on the channel. Come back for daily discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where some of the art and science of games. Until next time, take care.